What if I told you that everything you believed while studying the history of the Wild West is just the tip of the iceberg, and that reality is far more incredible than any Hollywood blockbuster? The culture of the indigenous peoples of North America harbors technological solutions whose genius and efficiency far surpass many modern inventions. The harsh, unforgiving conditions of the Great Plains left no room for error, forcing tribes to find perfect engineering solutions where the average person would see only emptiness. Just think about it. They turned an ordinary wild bison into a veritable high-tech complex that served as their factories, pharmacies, and construction supply stores all rolled into one. It wasn't just a source of food, it was an entire ecosystem for survival, unparalleled in world history. But how did they manage to get the most out of what we would simply throw away today? In this video, we'll take a look at the most hidden corners of nomadic life and explore technologies of the future from the distant past. Watch the episode to the end and you'll be amazed. I'll show you how the Lakota turned an ordinary gallbladder into an ultra-reliable airtight container, how glue capable of withstanding monstrous loads was made from hooves, and, most incredibly, how an animal's lungs became a highly accurate weather-predicting device long before the advent of weather stations. You've definitely never seen content like this before. Let's dive in. A secret passed down from generation to generation reveals the true value of moisture in the arid prairies. The Great Plains often subjected tribes to scorching heat and a complete lack of drinking water sources for miles around. The Lakota had to carry water supplies during long treks across sun-scorched terrain. Bulky clay jugs easily broke along the way and were too heavy to carry by hand all the time. That is why the indigenous peoples found the perfect solution to this complex problem inside the bison itself. The internal organs of this large animal provided the Native Americans with ready-made elastic containers for storing any liquids. The bison's gallbladder possessed unique natural properties necessary for creating an ultra-reliable travel flask. Its thick, muscular walls were capable of withstanding significant internal pressure without the slightest sign of rupture. The tissue of this organ was completely impermeable to moisture, keeping the precious liquid inside even on the hottest day. Hunters highly valued this unassuming item for its incredible practicality and phenomenal durability. The process of transforming raw material into a useful household item required a certain degree of skill and patience. First, the organ was carefully removed, taking care not to damage its thin, elastic outer membrane. Then it was thoroughly rinsed with clean river water to remove any remaining natural contents. The inner surface was methodically cleaned using fine sand and small smooth stones, scraping away all excess membranes. This stage was critical for completely eliminating any specific taste or odor from the future flask. After thorough cleaning, the material underwent a lengthy natural drying process in the open air. The bladder was tightly stuffed with bundles of dry grass or twisted leaves to give it the correct rounded shape. In this state, it was hung in the shade of trees away from direct and harsh sunlight. Slow drying ensured that the container's walls would not crack and would fully retain their natural flexibility. A warm breeze gradually drew out all excess moisture, transforming the soft fabric into durable parchment. The dried material took on a translucent yellowish hue and became incredibly lightweight. Now it was fully ready to fulfill its new function as a portable water container. An empty flask could be easily flattened with the palms of the hands and tucked away in a small belt pouch when not in use. When filled with water, the walls softened slightly, taking on a voluminous shape and holding over a liter of liquid. This made such a container the ideal companion for lone trackers on long step patrols. For the convenience of constant carrying, a special system of straps was attached to the neck of this natural vessel. The opening was tightly bound with a strong leather cord, leaving only a small hole for drinking on the go. The Lakota used a tightly twisted piece of dry bark or a smooth wooden peg as a watertight stopper. This tight construction prevented even a single drop of precious liquid from spilling while riding a horse. The container was securely fastened to the hunter's belt or slung over the shoulder using a long leather cord. The water in such a natural flask remained incredibly pleasant and cool for a long time. The walls of the container allowed for microscopic evaporation of moisture, which created a natural physical cooling effect on the contents. Even after a full day of long travel under the scorching sun, a traveler could enjoy a fresh sip of clean water. This simple physical principle helped nomadic peoples survive in the most extreme temperature conditions. No wooden hollowed-out flask could surpass this vessel in overall convenience. It's amazing to realize how simple natural elements could be transformed into such perfect tools for nomadic life. Every technical solution devised by the Native Americans was dictated by strict necessity and an incredible understanding of the physical laws of nature. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this unconventional method of creating camping cookware from organic materials? Share your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new exciting historical explorations. I discovered this by accident while studying ancient methods for creating reliable hunting bows and sturdy arrows. In a world without factories producing chemical compounds, the Lakota needed an incredibly powerful binding material. They had to join wooden parts, attach stone arrowheads, and secure the feathers so that they could withstand enormous loads. The solution to this complex engineering problem was the hard horn-like structures from the legs of the mighty bison. This hard material contained a chemical composition that surpassed many modern synthetic analogs in strength. The biological basis of this powerful substance lay in the high content of natural collagen in the animal's hard tissues. This complex structural protein provided the incredible strength of the animal's hooves, which could withstand a weight of up to a ton while running. The Native Americans learned to extract this valuable component through a lengthy and strictly controlled thermal treatment of the material. The process of extracting the binding agent was long and required the constant presence of experienced craftsmen by the burning fire. A mistake in the temperature control could completely destroy all the adhesive properties of the horn mass being prepared. Preparation began with the thorough grinding of the solid raw material into smaller fragments using heavy stones. The crushed particles were placed in special thick-walled containers filled with clean river water and set over a low heat. The water was not supposed to boil vigorously, otherwise the collagen bonds would break down, depriving the future composition of its famous viscosity. The craftsmen maintained a steady, gentle simmer for several long days, constantly adding logs of the same size to the fire. The thick liquid was regularly stirred with long wooden sticks to prevent it from burning to the sides of the pot. To store the resulting substance conveniently, the Native Americans used a brilliantly simple and practical method. They took thin, straight sticks and generously wound the still warm, thick mass around them. In the air, the mixture quickly hardened, turning the stick into a convenient, compact briquette ready for long-term storage. The craftsmen carefully stored these glue sticks in dry leather pouches, protecting them from accidental exposure to moisture. In this form, the substance could remain for years without losing any of its original chemical and physical properties. This natural compound was of particular importance in the manufacture of the legendary composite Native American hunting bows. Craftsmen glued the wooden bow frame to horn plates and layers of tendons to give the weapon incredible elasticity. The compound penetrated deep into the wood's pores, creating a monolithic structure capable of launching arrows over vast distances. The glue did not crack under the bow's intense bending and withstood the sharp temperature fluctuations of the steppe. It was precisely thanks to this technology that the nomads of the Great Plains possessed the most advanced projectile weapons of their time. The compound was also widely used to securely attach sharp flint arrowheads to the smooth wooden shafts of arrows. The craftsmen carefully poured the hot mixture into a pre-cut groove at the end of the shaft and firmly inserted the stone into it. Once cooled, the tip sat absolutely immovable, ensuring high accuracy and penetrating power during flight. Additionally, the joint was wrapped with thin threads, which were also thoroughly coated with thick, warm glue. This design could withstand a direct impact against the sturdy bones of large game without breaking apart into its component parts. Even in everyday tasks, this material found widespread use among ordinary members of the Lakota tribe. It was used to repair broken wooden saddles, reinforce knife handles, and seal seams on certain items. The art of creating this substance was passed down from experienced elders to young apprentices in the strictest confidence. Every family took pride in its own little tricks for achieving the perfect consistency and maximum strength of the mixture. Do you think modern synthetic glue could compare to this ancient mixture in terms of its eco-friendliness and durability? In the next chapter, you'll learn why one specific part of the bison was considered an absolute privilege and was never available to ordinary people. Are you ready for the shocking truth about the distribution of resources within the Native American community on the Great Plains? In the culture of nomadic tribes, there existed a strict unspoken system for evaluating the various parts of an animal hunted. Most of the resources were fairly distributed among all the families in the vast camp to ensure the collective survival of the group. However, one particular cut from the massive carcass always stood out from the rest due to its exceptional flavor. This piece of meat never made it into the communal pot and was reserved exclusively for the tribe's recognized leaders. We are talking about the massive bison tongue, which was rightly considered the most exquisite and valuable delicacy of the plains. This organ was distinguished by an incredibly tender structure of muscle fibers, richly marbled with thin layers of valuable nutritious fat. Given the harsh nomadic diet, consisting mainly of tough, lean meat, such a product was a true culinary rarity. Its rich flavor and high caloric content made it an ideal source of energy for the most respected members of the community. Receiving it was considered a symbol of the highest honor and public recognition of a person's merits before their people. The preparation of this elite product was entrusted only to the most experienced and respected women of the tribe. Most often, the tongue was simmered for a long time in hot water, using a method of heating the liquid with stones heated over a fire. Slow, low-temperature cooking allowed all the nutritious juices to be fully preserved and made the dense tissue incredibly tender. During the cooking process, the organ's tough outer membrane was easily removed, revealing the delicate center of this delicacy. The aroma of the finished dish was strikingly different from the smell of ordinary roasted meat, spreading throughout the camp. This dish was often served during important political councils, negotiations with neighbors, or significant religious ceremonies. A chieftain might share this precious cut with an outstanding warrior as a special token of gratitude for bravery shown in battle. Thin slices of tender meat were arranged on clean wooden platters or broad, fresh plant leaves. Sharing this food served as a powerful tool for forging strong alliances and solidifying important agreements. Refusing an offered peace was considered a serious insult and a direct challenge to the giver's authority. In rare cases, this organ was subjected to a thorough drying process for long-term strategic storage. The dried delicacy was saved for winter rituals, when fresh game was practically unavailable due to deep snow. It was finely ground between stones and mixed with sour berries to create a special, elite type of pemmican. The chief took this concentrated energy food with him only on the most important and lengthy diplomatic missions. This supply ensured he maintained his strength and a clear mind while far from the main tribal food stores. Every young hunter in the tribe secretly dreamed of the day when his merits would allow him to taste this delicacy. This motivated the young men to perform daring feats, hone their survival skills, and prove their absolute loyalty to the community. This culinary privilege served as a powerful social ladder, clearly demonstrating each individual's status and achievements. In a society where there were no coins or written documents, it was precisely such visible symbols that determined one's standing. A piece of tender meat meant far more than any glittering jewelry or beautiful feathers in one's hair. This careful treatment of individual parts of the carcass underscores the depth of the Native Americans' understanding of anatomy and culinary arts. They did not merely satisfy the body's basic needs, but also constructed a complex system of cultural and social coordinates. Every action during the butchering process had its own profound meaning, rooted in the centuries-old traditions of free-roaming nomads. Nothing went to waste, and every part found its ideal purpose within the intricate mosaic of nomadic life. If you're amazed by these incredible nuances of Lakota culture, be sure to like this video. The hidden truth that everyone keeps quiet about lies in ancient methods of weather forecasting without the use of complex instruments. For the nomads of the Great Plains, an accurate forecast of climate changes was a matter not just of comfort, but of physical survival. A sudden winter blizzard could completely bury a camp in snow within a few hours, killing horses and destroying fragile teepees. The Native Americans closely observed animal behavior, bird flight, and wind direction, identifying the slightest patterns in nature. However, the most reliable and remarkable barometer in their arsenal was the carefully prepared lungs of a slaughtered bison. This large internal organ possessed a unique porous structure consisting of millions of microscopic cells and capillaries. The spongy tissue was capable of instantly reacting to the slightest changes in humidity and atmospheric pressure in the surrounding air. To transform the raw organ into a precise measuring instrument, the Lakota carried out a special procedure of deep and slow drying. They hung the material high under the dome of the teepee, where warm, dry air from the central fire constantly circulated. The process took several weeks, after which the tissue became light, stiff, and completely devoid of internal fluids. Experienced observers could interpret these changes in shape with astonishing precision, unmatched by modern people. An increase in the volume of the dried organ indicated not only the fact that bad weather was approaching, but also its potential intensity. If the fabric swelled rapidly and significantly, the tribe received an immediate signal to urgently prepare the camp for the onslaught of the elements. The women began hurriedly reinforcing the teepee stakes, tightening additional safety straps, and gathering large supplies of fuel. The men herded the horses into sheltered enclosures and checked the security of all the joints on their portable dwellings. As the storm front approached, the organ became soft to the touch and slightly damp, as if alive. As soon as the threat had passed and atmospheric pressure returned to normal, the water slowly evaporated from the spongy fibers. The indicator would shrink again, signaling to the Lakota that it was safe to resume hunting and daily activities. This reliable biological warning system worked flawlessly in every season, protecting the community from the surprises of the plains' harsh climate. The Native Americans entrusted their lives and the lives of their families entirely to this simple tool. It is remarkable how deep empirical knowledge allowed the Native Americans to utilize the hidden physical properties of organic materials. They did not know the terms atmospheric pressure or hygroscopicity, but they flawlessly applied these laws of physics in practice. Nature itself suggested the right engineering solutions to them. All they had to do was carefully observe its reactions. The use of such an unusual object demonstrates a complete fusion of man with the environment and a deep respect for the natural world. In this culture, there is no place for waste. Every little thing became the key to a safe existence. Such unique instruments were carefully passed down from one responsible observer to another, serving the tribe for many years. Skeptics may doubt the accuracy of such measurements, but the Lakota's centuries-long history of successful survival proves otherwise. They were able to adapt to one of the most unpredictable climatic zones on the planet precisely because of their insight. Their science was based on hundreds of years of careful observation, trial and error, and brilliant practical insights. Would you trust such a natural barometer in an extreme situation? In the next chapter, you'll learn how the Lakota solved the problem of heating their homes in the middle of a snow-covered prairie where there isn't a single tree. The boundless expanses of North America were a vast ocean of tall grass, with not a single large tree on the horizon. Local tribes constantly faced a severe shortage of traditional firewood for building fires and preparing daily meals. The harsh continental climate demanded a reliable and constant source of heat to warm their spacious dwellings on cold nights. The Lakota found an ingenious solution to this most difficult everyday problem, literally right under their feet on the pastures. The primary resource for survival in these harsh conditions was the dry waste produced by millions of giant herbivores. This natural material covered vast areas of the plains in colossal abundance after countless herds of bison had passed through. The Native Americans collected the patties, dried by the scorching steppe sun, into large, sturdy bags made of rawhide. This resource required absolutely no complex pre-processing or lengthy drying before being used directly in the hearth. The wind-dried organic material immediately became a highly efficient fuel, ready for immediate use by the tribe. The dense structure of this natural briquette was formed thanks to the unique characteristics of the digestive tracts of these enormous animals. Thoroughly chewed prairie grass was naturally compressed, forming a solid organic mass rich in combustible plant fibers. Under the prolonged exposure of the scorching rays of the summer sun, all residual moisture completely evaporated from these peculiar briquettes. The result was an incredibly light yet remarkably energy-dense material, convenient for transport during migrations. It possessed unique physical properties that made it far more valuable than ordinary heavy logs. The women of the Lakota tribe spent hours methodically gathering this vital and completely free resource. They carefully combed through the areas of recent pastures, selecting only the completely dry and densest pieces of fuel. The collected strategic reserve was neatly stacked near each teepee in the form of beautiful, even small pyramids. This geometric storage shape ensured ideal ventilation and reliably protected the briquettes from accidentally getting wet in the rain. A reliable supply guaranteed the family steady heat for several long weeks or even cold months. Ordinary branches from sparse shrubs burned quickly and required constant attention and replenishment of the hearth. Unlike damp or resinous wood, this material burned with virtually no thick, acrid smoke. The complete absence of a tall column of smoke made the tribe's encampment much less visible to potential enemy forces. The smoldering organic briquette provided exactly the amount of heat needed to keep the interior of the teepee as comfortable as possible. The air inside the dwelling always remained clean and breathable without the need for constant ventilation. It was incredibly convenient to cook complex everyday meals for the whole family over such a smokeless, steady fire. The steady heat was distributed as evenly as possible, allowing meat products to be slowly braised in special camping containers. The absence of a strong open flame significantly reduced the risk of accidental ignition of the dry materials of the portable dwelling itself. The Lakota often carefully baked nutritious roots directly in the hot ashes, left after the organic briquettes had completely burned out. This ancient method of gentle heat treatment preserved all the nutrients and vitamins in the cooked food. In winter, the real value of this accessible natural resource for the Lakota increased literally tenfold. Deep snow cover reliably concealed the few withered branches, making the collection of ordinary firewood an absolutely impossible task. Tall stacks of dry manure prepared in advance became the only guarantee of successful survival during the harshest February frosts. The Lakota used their supplies very sparingly, carefully calculating every portion of fuel needed to sustain the community. They knew full well that the warmth of their hearths depended on these unassuming pyramids until the long-awaited spring arrived. The use of such material brilliantly demonstrates the remarkable rationality of the culture of the indigenous peoples of North America. They took from the environment only what lay on the surface and did not require aggressive destruction. This harmonious approach provided them with absolutely everything necessary for a comfortable existence in the vast treeless expanses. Not a single rare branch of the few shrubs was broken by them for the sake of mere short-term heating of their dwellings. The harsh wilderness remained untouched, while these resourceful people obtained a reliable source of vital thermal energy. This organic union between man and the prairie ensured the stable prosperity of a great culture for many centuries. The supreme efficiency of this strange fuel astonished even the first educated European settlers who found themselves in these wild lands. Faced with the harsh realities of the plains, they quickly adopted this ingenious Native American method of heating their wagons. The settlers respectfully dubbed this life-saving material Bison chips and actively collected it along their way. The ancient wisdom of nomadic peoples once again proved its superiority over familiar but ineffective solutions. What seemed like ordinary trash actually turned out to be the key to saving thousands of human lives on the prairies. What was found in old archives turns our ideas about Stone Age cooking and nomadic life on their head. The lack of steel or sturdy clay pots posed a serious problem for the Lakota when preparing hot liquid food. Their nomadic lifestyle did not allow the Native Americans to carry heavy and fragile ceramic cookware on horses. They needed a lightweight, reliable, and unbreakable container capable of withstanding high temperatures for cooking meat stews. The ingenious solution to this practical problem was the use of the thick, voluminous stomach of a bison hunted in the wild. This giant muscular sack was ideal for use as a camping pot, thanks to its remarkable elasticity and durability. Its thick, multi-layered walls were capable of holding a large amount of heavy liquid for a long time without leaking. Before use, Native American women would thoroughly and meticulously clean the organ's inner surface with river sand and water. The clean material was stretched between 4 sturdy wooden stakes, firmly driven into the ground directly above a small depression. The result was a unique leather bowl, capable of holding several dozen liters of fresh, clean water. The main problem was that such organic cookware could not be placed directly over an open fire. The flame would instantly burn through the thin walls, destroying both the valuable vessel itself and the entire nutritious meal being prepared. The Indians used a completely different, incredibly ingenious physical method of transferring heat to the liquid without using a direct open flame. Next to the suspended stomach, they built a large separate fire, into which they placed round, smooth river stones. The stones heated up to a red-hot state, accumulating a colossal amount of thermal energy from the burning wood. Using special long wooden tongs, the women carefully removed the red-hot stones from the raging fire. They quickly cleared them of excess ash and gently lowered them directly into the water inside the suspended stomach. The water around the hot stone instantly boiled, hissing loudly as it transferred heat to the entire volume of the cold liquid. The Lakota methodically added new red-hot stones one by one until all the water in the container began to bubble vigorously. This ancient method allowed them to bring a huge volume of liquid to a boil in just a few short minutes. As the stones cooled rapidly in the water, they were quickly removed with wooden paddles and returned to the fire. New, freshly heated boulders were immediately submerged in their place, maintaining a continuous and even boil of the broth. The Native Americans threw pieces of fresh meat, nutritious sweet roots, wild onions, and aromatic herbs into this boiling water. The walls of the bison's stomach remained completely intact as the water reliably protected them from overheating. The dense structure of the tissue withstood the weight of the water, the weight of the heavy stones, and the vigorous bubbling of the boiling liquid. This ingenious technique demonstrates the highest level of human adaptability to harsh and unpredictable environmental conditions. The Lakota masterfully applied the laws of thermodynamics, transforming a set of stones, water, and a piece of cloth into a functional cooking tool. They overcame the limitations of their time by creating complex culinary masterpieces without using traditional metal or ceramic tools. Such ingenuity allowed them to remain mobile, agile, and independent of heavy stationary household equipment on the plains. Would you dare to try a dish prepared in such a primitive way? In the next chapter, you'll learn what natural material served as a substitute for sturdy steel cables for the Native Americans. To create durable clothing, reliable weapons, and portable dwellings, the Lakota desperately needed high-quality binding materials. Ordinary plant fibers were too brittle and wore out quickly under constant mechanical stress in the harsh prairie conditions. The solution came in the form of long, thick bundles of tendons extracted from the powerful back and leg muscles of bison hunted in the wild. These elastic tissues possessed a fantastic tensile strength, comparable in characteristics to modern Kevlar threads. Native American artisans learned to transform these tough anatomical elements into the finest and strongest sewing threads of the prairies. The process of preparing this invaluable material began with the careful separation of long white strips from the animal's flank meat. The strips were thoroughly cleaned of even the slightest traces of fat and laid out on flat stones under the scorching sun to dry. After complete dehydration, the tendons became incredibly hard, resembling in structure pieces of translucent yellowish plastic or horn. Then the women of the tribe took heavy, smooth boulders and began methodically pounding these dry strips on a flat surface. Under the strong, monotonous blows, the rigid structure gradually broke down, and the material disintegrated into hundreds of the finest, strongest longitudinal fibers. These resulting thin fibers were carefully separated by hand, sorted by length, thickness, and overall quality of the material. For ordinary, everyday sewing of leather clothing, the women twisted 2 or 3 thin threads together, creating a strong yarn. Moistened with human saliva, these fibers became soft and pliable, easily passing through the tiniest holes in the rawhide. As they dried within the finished seam, the tendons contracted slightly, pulling the sewn pieces together with incredible force. This property made clothing, footwear, and tippy covers completely impervious to biting wind and moisture. This unique material held particular strategic importance in the complex process of crafting the Lakota's powerful composite hunting bows. Master bow makers used the longest and highest quality dorsal tendons to reinforce the outer surface of their weapons' wooden bows. The fibers were thoroughly soaked in hot hoof glue and tightly layered onto the prepared surface of a curved piece of wood. Once completely dry, they shrunk dramatically, giving the bow phenomenal elasticity and tremendous draw strength for the shot. Without this natural reinforcement, wooden bows would quickly break in the cold or lose their lethal power. From the longest and smoothest threads, the Indians also wove incredibly strong and reliable bowstrings for their bows. Such a bowstring did not stretch over time, withstood enormous jerks during shooting, and was resistant to accidental mechanical damage. To protect against dampness and rain, finished products were generously impregnated with melted animal fat, creating a water-repellent protective layer. The result was a weapon that served the warrior reliably for many years of active combat and hunting. The use of tendons represents the pinnacle of the Lakota's waste-free production, where every anatomical detail was transformed into a technological masterpiece of its time. In the absence of any access to metallurgy, Native Americans found a substitute for steel in the sturdy skeleton of the mighty bison. The animal's massive, heavy bones became an ideal building and craft material for them, easily amenable to complex mechanical processing. The dense mineral structure of these organic elements allowed them to create tools capable of withstanding enormous daily impact and cutting loads. The Lakota masterfully utilized the natural curves and shapes of the bones, minimizing the need for lengthy additional carving or polishing. Each bone in the skeleton had its own strictly defined, centuries-honed functional purpose in the complex nomadic life of the Plains tribes. The animal's broad, sturdy shoulder blades served as an excellent ready-made tool for heavy earthwork when setting up campsites. The Native Americans attached this flat piece of bone to a sturdy wooden handle using rawhide straps, creating an excellent hoe. With this sturdy tool, they easily dug deep pits for food storage, cleared snow, and leveled the ground for teepees. The powerful ribs of the bison were used to make light and gliding runners for winter sleds, on which they transported their cargo. Their natural curve was ideal for gliding through deep snow, providing the tribe with mobility even in the harshest blizzards. The long tubular leg bones were split lengthwise, yielding strong and sharp blanks for creating a variety of cutting and piercing tools. From the fragments, they carved magnificent needles, awls, and sharp scrapers for thoroughly cleaning raw hides of excess fat. These bone blades could be easily sharpened on rough stones right on the trail, restoring their original razor-sharp edge. Smaller bones were used to make arrowheads for light bird arrows and hooks for fishing in rivers. Artisans also carved them into beautiful game dice, ornaments, and ritual whistles for solemn tribal ceremonies. The nutritious bone marrow hidden inside the large, thick bones of the bison's musculoskeletal system was of particular nutritional value. The Native Americans would crack the heavy bones with massive stones and carefully extract this precious, high-calorie substance for consumption. The marrow was boiled, added to pemmican, or simply eaten raw to quickly restore strength after long, exhausting treks. The remaining empty fragments were then simmered in water for a long time to obtain valuable technical fat for lubricating tools. This fat reliably protected wooden and leather items from the destructive effects of moisture and drying out in the sun. The use of the animal's skeleton vividly demonstrates the engineering genius of the indigenous peoples and their ability to find a way around any limitations. They transformed the immobile bone structure into dozens of useful, dynamic mechanisms that ensured the survival of an entire vast prairie civilization. No modern plastic could compete with this material in terms of environmental friendliness and availability on the prairies. Tools made from bison bones served their owners for many years, passed down from fathers to sons. This ancient approach to materials science deserves the highest respect for its logic, simplicity, and impeccable practical effectiveness. The massive curved bison horns represented yet another invaluable resource that the Lakota Indians never allowed to rot. This hard keratinous sheath, which protected the bony protrusion on the animal's skull, possessed remarkable strength and was completely waterproof. Unlike fragile wood or easily breakable clay, a horn could fall onto sharp rocks without the slightest damage. This quality made it the ideal material for creating lightweight, durable, and elegant tableware suited to a nomadic lifestyle. Native American artisans elevated the art of working with this hard natural polymer to the level of a true fine craft. The process of transforming raw material into finished utensils required a deep understanding of the unique physical and chemical properties of animal keratin. First, the horn had to be separated from the inner bone core, which was done by prolonged boiling in water. Under the influence of high temperatures, the hard material softened slightly, allowing the artisan to carefully remove the outer black layer from the skull. The hollow horn was then boiled further until it became pliable enough to be reshaped. During this brief period, the Native Americans could widen the opening, curve the edges, or flatten the material using wooden spacers. In addition to kitchenware, whole horns were often used as reliable portable containers for preserving live smoldering coals. The Indians placed a hot coal inside a thick-walled horn, covered it tightly with dry ash, and sealed it with a solid wooden stopper. The lack of oxygen prevented the coal from burning out quickly, but allowed it to smolder slowly for several long days. This spared nomads the need to strike a spark by friction every time they lit a new fire at a cold campsite. The horn did not burn through thanks to its high heat resistance, serving as a reliable safe for preserving the vital fire on the journey. With the advent of the first flintlock muskets among the Native Americans, these natural containers took on a completely new and extremely important military purpose. They became ideal powder flasks, reliably protecting black powder from dampness, rain, and accidental dangerous sparks during battle. The horn was sealed tightly on both ends with wooden parts, transforming into an elegant and functional element of the warrior's step equipment. The use of bison keratin structures proves that in Lakota culture, the concept of trash simply did not exist as such. Every part of the enormous beast found a new purpose, continuing to serve people faithfully even after its death. The last, but one of the most technologically remarkable ways of using the bison was the ancient technology for processing its gigantic hide. To transform the stiff raw hide into incredibly soft and supple suede, the Native Americans needed a powerful chemical emulsifier of natural origin. The Lakota discovered this complex secret within the animal's own body, using its brain to trigger the chemical tanning reaction. This organ contained the ideal natural balance of specific lipids and natural oils necessary to break down the tough protein bonds. The saying, "every animal has enough brains to tan its own hide," became the guiding principle of nomadic Native American tanners. The process began with the thorough mechanical cleaning of the removed hide to remove all traces of flesh, fat, and hair using bone scrapers. The prepared material was then stretched tightly over special wooden frames and left to dry completely in direct sunlight. Meanwhile, the women of the tribe prepared a special chemical solution by slowly boiling the extracted animal brain in a small amount of water. The resulting thick, oily emulsion was carefully cooled and methodically rubbed by hand into the taut, board-hard dried hide. The oils penetrated deep into the microscopic pores of the skin, coating every fiber and preventing them from sticking together as they continued to dry. After thorough saturation, the hide was removed from the frame, twisted into a tight bundle, and left for several days to ferment. This stage allowed the active substances to completely break down the rigid structures within the material, preparing it for the final mechanical processing. Then came the most physically demanding stage. The hide was stretched, kneaded, and rubbed against tightly stretched ropes or stakes for hours on end. Prolonged mechanical action combined with organic oils made the material incredibly pliable, soft, and pleasant to the touch. The result of this painstaking, multi-day process was the famous Native American suede, which surpassed in quality any factory-made equivalents of the time. To lock in the result and make the material completely waterproof, the finished suede underwent a final process of intense cold smoking. The hides were sewn into the shape of a closed dome and suspended over a small pit containing slowly smoldering pieces of rotten wood. Thick smoke penetrated the leather structure, chemically setting the fibers and giving the product a characteristic golden brown hue and a pleasant aroma. Such smoked leather no longer stiffened after accidentally getting wet in the rain and reliably protected people from the biting wind. It was used to make luxurious festive shirts, comfortable soft moccasins, and incredibly warm winter jackets for the entire tribe. The technology of brain tanning is the true crowning achievement of the biochemical engineering of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, brought to absolute historical perfection. They utilize complex chemical reactions, relying solely on their millennia of practical experience and deep respect for the laws of nature. The bison fed, clothed, armed, and warmed the Lakota, becoming the foundation of their independent and proud existence on the Great Plains. This approach to resources teaches us that true efficiency lies not in conquering nature, but in understanding its mechanisms. Suggest topics for future videos you'd like to see on our channel in the comments, and be sure to subscribe.